All right, welcome. In our last video, we created this file to run our database migration. But if you look at this part where we, should I say, where we collected our database credentials, you can see we need to first get our database credentials, validate them. Just with TypeScript, you need to do some validation. And at this point, you see that we have to convert this to number because env by default is going to give you string or undefined. We had to convert that to number, okay? And this is just a simple part of our project in general. Okay, we'll be using the database credentials over and over again in numerous places, and we also be having some other environment variables that we have to be validating manually. Okay, this method of validation is not it is not efficient. Importing env variables, validating it all by hand, and assuming we are just going to be doing this in a single place, it would have been better. But doing it there in another place, do that again, in another place, do that again, so that is not efficient. All right, so in this video we'll be creating a centralized point where we do our environment variables validation. Okay, so we're going to be creating a centralized system, all right, where we are going to be importing our environment variables, all of them, and then we validate them all at once rather than having something like this over and over again in every part of our project. Okay, so to start with, we are going to be creating a file. We go to our Explorer. Inside of this lib folder, we're going to create a file, and then we're going to call it env server. Okay, so we're assuming though in this project we don't have any client-side environment variables, or assuming we have one, then we are going to have another file to validate our environment variable for the client. All right, so this is for the server. Okay, so inside of this file, let me close my sidebar. First off, let's import the server only package just to keep us safe, right? So we'll be using Zod to validate our envs. All right, so we're going to be importing that from Zod, and you know that with Zod you have to have your schema. Okay, so we're going to call this env schema, and that is going to contain the schema of to validate our environment variables. Okay, so inside of this we are going to have base URL. All right, that is let me show you that in our env. That is the URL for our app, which is currently localhost. Okay, this one for mine, this is 3001 because my project is running on 3001 because I have two projects running concurrently. Yours is going to be 3000. Just leave yours at 3000, but for now mine is going to be 3001. Okay, and this should be HTTP currently. HTTP, not HTTPS for now. I'm going to save that. Okay, so I'm going to close that. All right, we can as well. Okay, let's first validate this first. So we're going to have z dot string. It is going to be string, and this string is going to be URL. That is our main URL for the whole project. So let's add a comment and let's call it main site, or we can call it main app URL. Okay, now let's create the schema for our database. So we can say we have our database credentials here. So the first is, okay, we can as well copy it so that we don't have to type this Ctrl-Alt down arrow. Okay, so I'm going to select all that. Okay, I'm going to paste that. All right, and for my DB host, it's going to be a string. So we're going to have z dot, okay, thank you, z dot string. All right, okay, this one is going to be also a string. Okay, so this is also going to be a string. All right, but at minimum should have a single character. At minimum there should be one character there. Okay, so okay, let me just copy this. We're going to have all of this. Same for this for name, and for password. going to paste that. Okay, for port, our port is going to be number. As you can see here, it must be a number. So we are going to be coercing that to a number. So we have z dot coerce, all right. We're coercing it into a number, okay, and the number should be positive, all right. So that is going to do all the validations for us. That is, so now we have our env schema, all right. So now we are going to create a function where we're actually going to validate uh, env. So we're going to call it validate env. Okay, it's not accepting anything. So inside of this, we're going to have a try and catch statement. Okay. Also inside of this, we're going to have a return statement. Then we're going to have env schema dot pass. We're going to use pass now, not save pass. Then we're just going to pass our environment variables to that, and that is going to be process.env. So we'll be passing all of our environment variables to that. Okay, so if the environment variables in the file does not satisfy all of our schema conditions here, then it's going to throw error. So we're going to be caching the error in this part of the code. Okay, so we're going to have, okay, first off, let's check if the error is an instance of error. Okay, so we're going to say if error is instance of z.zod error. Okay, zod error. All right. So if it's an instance of zod error, then we are going to have a missing, let's call it missing variable constant here. Okay, and then we're going to have error dot errors. Okay, so we're going to map this. Okay, let's have our callback function properly. I'm going to have error dot path dot join. Okay, so we are joining it with a period. Okay, then now we are going to be joining everything from this array. I'm going to be joining it with a comma dot join. Dot join. I'm going to join it with a comma and a space. Okay, so after getting all of our missing variables, so this one now, this line of code, we are mapping through the error instance, the Zod error instance, and then we are joining all the parts, all the error parts. Possibly it is the DB user or the DB password or the DB port. So we are joining all of them together, right? So we are going to be throwing an error here. So we have throw new error. Okay, so we are going to have invalid environment variables. Okay, so this is supposed to be template literals. Okay, so I'm going to have this here. I'm going to change this to template literals. All right, so here we are going to pass the missing variables that we created at this point. And just in case, if the error is not an instance of Zod error, then we're just going to throw error here, which is most likely never going to happen. Okay. All right. At this point, let me just add what they call it. I'm just going to add this here. If you are using Windows, if you want to get this emoji, just press your window key and your full stop. That's going to bring this up. There is a way to do that in Mac. I don't know that. I don't use Mac for now. Okay, so now we need to export the return value from our validation. Okay, so we're going to come to the end part here. We're going to have export default. All right. Then we're going to invoke our function validate env, which is going to return a validated env object. All right, so I'm going to save that. Now we can now go to our own migration folder, so we can just get rid of all this now. Okay, that's one of the downside of TypeScript. TypeScript is kind of verbose, though it has its own upside. All right, it helps you to catch your error as soon as possible. So I'm going to be importing this. Okay, so I'm just going to call it env to shorten the name from env from env server. That is the file we just created, this env server. Okay, so we'll be importing it here. Then we're going to call this env. All right, we're also going to have env here. Okay, so that is going to validate every of our environment variables for us. Okay, let me just copy that. Okay, I'm just going to paste that here. Okay, yeah, we don't need to wrap this to with a number anymore because we've already validated that. Okay, so you can see that we do not run into any error. Okay, so it's going to function the same way. But for a test, let's get rid of one of the environment variables of, okay, let me just get rid of the username and see if it's going to pass the test. Okay, so now you can see, so you can see now because one of the envs does not pass the test, so we have an error in our server. Okay, so you can see this one is much more efficient. All right, so if I save that now, then we do not have any error again. You can see that this means of validating our env, it's much more efficient. Now all we have to do is to keep providing whatever env we need in our project inside of this schema. It's going to validate it for us. Okay, so and all we need to do is just to be importing the env file in anywhere we need our envs. All right, so that will be all for this video. Don't forget to like the video and please subscribe to the channel. All right, and I'll be seeing you in the next video.